The opinions expressed during this show are not necessarily those of this station, its employees, or advertisers, but are solely the opinions of the host and the guests that appear on the show. It's time now for Tea Party Talk with TomZ, hosted by Tom Zawistowski, president of the We the People Convention and executive director of the Portage County Tea Party. Get ready to become a totally engaged American who is informed about the critical issues that are affecting the welfare and individual rights of all Americans today.
S&K Asphalt and Concrete has been serving residential, commercial, and industrial customers since 1988 with quality paving services. The experts at S&K Asphalt and Concrete have the knowledge and experience to meet your paving needs. From parking lots to driveways to repairs and resurfacing, S&K paves the way. Call today for a free estimate. 330-724-9090. That's 330-724-9090. Or visit online at skasphaltconcrete.com.
Are you concerned about your family's safety? Now, Target Thing Pro Shop is a female-friendly gun shop, range, and training center. Target Thing is in Garrettsville. We're on the web at targetthing.com. Target Thing is where they offer guns, ammo, and training to help you keep your family safe. It's Target Thing Pro Shop.
Fed up with politicians who care more about special interests than people on Main Street? So is Opportunity Ohio. We're working hard to solve Ohio's toughest challenges so Ohioans can create more jobs to grow our economy. See our plans and consider a tax-deductible contribution at opportunityohio.org. Invest $25 for a signed copy of Matt Mayer's book, The Founding Debate, Where Should the Power Over Our Lives Reside? Please visit opportunityohio.org.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us once again on Tea Party Talk with TomZ. I am Tom Zawistowski, and I'm happy to be with you this morning, and I'm happy you're with me. We're going to have a wild show this week. I've got a lot of things to talk to you about, and really, to discuss how our world is just going mad in so many ways, and what you and I have to do about it to bring, common sense back to our lives and back to our nation. All of you who are listening are watching the live stream of this show on Wednesday mornings at 10:30 at teapartytalkwithtomz.com. Thanks for joining, and thanks for watching the video stream. And all of you who are in your cars, driving around on Saturday mornings or at home listening on your AM radio on 640 WHLO AM in Akron, Ohio. Thanks for joining us in the 66 of the 88 counties in Ohio and in Michigan and Indiana, Western Pennsylvania, and even parts of Canada. Thanks for joining us as well. And again, you can listen anywhere in the nation on iHeartRadio at www.640whlo.com. And we have listeners in Colorado and Texas and Florida and all kinds of places. So thanks to all of you for joining us today. As I said, we've got quite a show for you today, and those of you in your car, buckle up because it's going to be quite a ride. Our first guest this morning is a friend who's previously worked here in Ohio with Media Trackers here in Ohio, and he's now working as the managing editor and budget and tax news coordinator for the Chicago-based Heartland Institute. His name is Jesse Hathaway. And Jesse, thanks for joining me this morning.
Well, thanks for having me on the show today, Tom. It's a pleasure.
Well, we've missed you since you've been away there. When you joined Heartland, I knew you were off to join a great organization. And I don't know that a lot of our listeners know much about the Heartland Institute. And so I'd like you to just open up first by just telling us about Heartland and what you guys do there and who you are.
Well, as you say, we are based in Chicago, but we are we are involved in efforts all across the nation, including the 50 states. We're a free market oriented think tank. We believe, like I'm sure most of your listeners do as well, that free markets and less regulation and a less burdensome government is the key to not only economic problems, but a lot of, I guess you could say, a lot of but education, environmental, energy problems, telecom issues is another thing that we work on. So we try to help legislators and activists and people find that the free market, help them find those free market solutions that are out there.
Well, when you were here in Ohio before, you just did a great job of digging up information that just wasn't available anywhere else. You were featured on the Drudge Report and different, conservative, news websites and things like that. Are you still doing that? Is that your role at Heartland, or do you do something a little bit different than you did at Media Trackers?
Yeah, I still do that. I do have moved up a little bit in the world, as you said. I'm a managing editor, so I manage and edit the writers' work. But so we do try to feature things that are going on going on in people's communities all across the nation, and help connect. There's a legislator in say Colorado who is making a particular reform, or is encountering a certain problem. Well, chances are that's a problem that other people are encountering else in other states. So by reading the Heartland Institute's publications, they become informed, and they have access to not only the news, but we have a huge amount of policy experts on just about any issue you can think of. We probably have an expert on it, and we serve to help connect people with those experts, and so that they can figure out what is the best solution for the problems that they're facing.
Well, Jesse, that's something that we find. The listeners of this show. We talk about never believing the lies, learning the truth, doing our research, and we depend on people like you to bring information to us that we don't get through the regular news media, and it really is important. And you brought a story to my attention last week that I just don't think a lot of the people listening to this show really have picked up on, but it's really quite serious. And this is a story about the IRS, and those listening to the show know that, when I was the president of the Ohio Liberty Coalition, we were the ones that helped stand up to the IRS and say we're not going to comply with their targeting, and we fought back and have been doing so for years. But this is a whole new level of abuse by the IRS, Jesse, where they're apparently taking people's cash and property without any legal reason to do so. Can you fill the folks in on that story and where you got it and what it's really all about?
Absolutely. This is actually a report that was conducted by the Institute for Justice. They're a nonprofit law firm based in Virginia and they focus on issues of economic liberty. They did a public records request on the IRS. And they found that between 2005, I believe, and 2012, the IRS seized nearly $250 million with a B from people using what's called civil asset forfeiture laws, and that's been something that's been in the news. Quite recently, and over the last couple months, is these civil asset forfeitures or civil asset seizures. Is basically if the police or a law enforcement agency or the government in general, if they so much as believe that you committed a crime, they use these laws to come in and seize your property before a conviction, before a guilty plea, or a trial, not after, before. So a lot of people have said that it's a violation of not only due process, but the whole concept of being innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah. Well, I was reading some things that were really stunning. Like, not only are they basically seizing your bank account or your property without any criminal evidence about your being guilty of something, but then that some of the people who were found innocent never even got their money back, or the ones who who didn't have any reason to be have their assets seized. It took them like a year to get their money back. I mean, Jesse, is that true? Could they take the money out of your bank account, not tell you why, not have no criminal evidence, and then take like a year to give you your money back?
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure some of your listeners are, they run a small business of some kind. So So in the case, there's one particular case that really illustrates what was going on here. It was the story of Carol Hinders in Spirit Lake, Iowa. And Carol ran a Mexican restaurant. It's called the Mrs. Lady Cafe. It was very popular among tourists to the area. Now, she employed about 15 people year-round and more during the tourist season. And her restaurant was cash only because she just didn't want to have to pay the credit card processing fees. Those are like 3, 4, 5, maybe even more percent of charge on each transaction that the credit card processing company takes. So she was cash only. So she was making very frequent deposits of sometimes large amounts of cash, large amounts when she is doing well. And the IRS basically drained her bank account. She had about $33,000 in her account at the time, based on a secret warrant, and they didn't tell her until after the fact, because she had ran afoul of what's called structuring. And basically, structuring is, when you're depositing, because banks are required to notify the government when a deposit of more than $10,000 or more is made. So so the criminals, to avoid getting that red flag raised, will often, will go in and deposit, $9,000, and then come in and then put in $1,000 the next day. So they're not putting in $10,000 all at once. Now, in this case, Carol ran afoul. She got of that. She had a red, that secret red flag put on her account. And the IRS got a secret warrant. They didn't tell her until after the fact that they'd done this. And they just came in with a vacuum, more or less, and drained her bank account using these civil forfeiture laws. She was accused of a crime and they didn't tell her until they'd already taken her property, her assets.
Did she ever get her money back, Jesse? Did she get put out of business, or what happened to her?
She did. She thankfully did get her money back, thanks to the help of the Institute for Justice. Their lawyers did it as a pro bono case, and after about a year or so, they managed to get $33,000 returned to her. Now, unfortunately, in most cases, the people who to whom this happens, they don't get their money back because it simply becomes just not worth the time and the money that they would put into hiring a lawyer and going through the court cases. So the IRS has a pretty and basically has a really good thing going on here.
Sure,
where
lots
they
of
can
leverage.
come in and vacuum up bank accounts based on suspicion of a crime. Not an actual crime being committed, just that they think there's a crime being committed.
Right. And
that they just come in and take the money, and basically it becomes a situation where it's not worth the effort to go back and get your money back.
Well, Jesse, we appreciate you bringing that to our attention. You can read more at heartland.org. It's not Heartland Institute, it's heartland.org. I appreciate you being with us, Jesse. We're going to watch this story, and maybe we'll have you back to talk more about it. You're listening to Tea Party Talk with TomZ, and we'll be back after these commercial messages.
I'm Nick Skiriotis, president of S&K Asphalt and Concrete. As a Greek immigrant who came to America legally, my family and I have lived the American dream of freedom, hope, and opportunity. But that dream is fading due to an out-of-control federal government that is mixed up worse than a soup sandwich. We have a president who is putting more and more regulations on businesses, which is stomping economic and job growth. Government has taken more and more of our freedoms. They have taken over our health care and are trying to take over our schools with Common Core. We as Americans must wake up, get involved before it is too late. We must fight to preserve the America our founders created, a nation that was founded on faith, family, and freedom. The fight is not easy, but anything worth fighting for never is. Our founders paid a heavy price for freedom. 5 of them did not live to see the independence they were fighting for. 9 of them were tortured. 12 of them lost everything they owned, and 3 of them lost their families. Now it is our turn to sacrifice and to fight to preserve our freedoms and the American dream. I am Nick Skiriotis, president of SNK Asphalt and Concrete, and I approve this message.
Hi, this is Amanda from Realize FAC. Are you a prepper? Do you know one? We're holding our first annual Preppers Ball at the Arena Complex in Talmadge. $10,000 worth of prizes, food, drinks, speakers, networking. Realize FAC has it all. Pick up your tickets in person at the Fin, Feather, and Fur or Grape and Granary, or go to the link that TomZ provides after this message.
Fed up with politicians who care more about special interests than people on Main Street? So is Opportunity Ohio. We're working hard to solve Ohio's toughest challenges so Ohioans can create more jobs to grow our economy. See our plans and consider a tax-deductible contribution at opportunityohio.org. Invest $25 for a signed copy of Matt Mayer's book, The Founding Debate: Where Should the Power Over Our Lives Reside? Please visit opportunityohio.org.
All right, and we are back, and we appreciate Jesse Hathaway from the Heartland Institute for joining us and telling us about that IRS story. We will follow that, and we will be in touch with our congressmen to have them look into this, because obviously we are supposed to be a nation of laws, not of men, and we are supposed to have protections under those laws. We're going to talk about that in this second half of the show, because there's just some things going on, folks, that are just you need to know about, and you need to understand them. You need to put them in context. There's been a series of events in the last week that have certainly caught my attention, and I think they need to catch your attention. I hope I can put them in perspective for you. It starts with the president's, prayer breakfast speech, where he, talks about, how Christians were in the Crusades 1,000 years ago and did atrocities similar to ISIS, and we need to get off our high horse. And what this is all about is the regressive left, where the president has grown up and basically learned his trade, where they use this moral relevancy. In other words, what's morally relevant? And what he's trying to say is that what ISIS is doing today is morally equivalent or relevant to what happened in the Crusades. But that's just bunk, okay? Because what happened 1,000 years ago was truly wrong. There were lots of evils taking place there. And there's been a lot of discussion about the historical facts about whether the Christians were responding to Muslim aggression. That doesn't matter. The fact that matters is that was 1,000 years ago, and since then, Christians have had a reformation where they don't kill people in the name of Christ. You don't see people blowing up airliners or buildings or burning people to death in the name of Jesus Christ. All right? You do see people doing that in the name of Allah. All right? Allah Akbar. God is great. And this is what the problem is. There is no moral relevance there. There is no equivalency there. And this is where the left is wrong. This is where Barack Obama has been, has adopted a philosophy that's flawed. And those on the left have this flawed philosophy. And unfortunately, folks, we've let these people in our schools to teach our kids these same things. All right? In other words, there is no right or wrong. It just depends on the circumstances. Well, that's just not true. There is a right and a wrong. It is wrong to burn people alive. And you need to say that with enthusiasm and understand that it's true. It's not relevant to some other act. Their act is wrong just as somebody else is wrong. There is right and wrong. And he went on to say, this is unbelievable, that fighting ISIS is like a big city mayor fighting crime. No, it's not. No, it's not. And he showed his hand when he talked on this stupid news channel. I don't know why he goes around on these stupid web sites to talk about this stuff instead of be president of the United States. Get your butt in the White House and do your job. Quit being running around the nation, being a candidate or a community organizer. You're supposed to be the leader of the United States. Act like it. But he's talking about how these are random acts. This is not a planned thing. That the killings in France were just random. No, they weren't. They were planned. They were intentional. There were targets. They targeted the cartoonist. They targeted the Jews in the Jewish belly. They're targeting people. These are not random acts. But they believe their own lies. And this is the problem we have. And this is why it's dangerous to you and your family and to me and to our nation and the world. Ideologues like Barack Obama have been the cause of millions of deaths throughout history. Neville Chamberlain thought Adolf Hitler was a reasonable person. He was not. Chamberlain's a fool. Barack Obama is a fool. They have no idea what they're dealing with, but I guarantee you ISIS does. They know what they're dealing with. They're dealing with people who don't know right from wrong. That's what they're dealing with. And so they're going to keep pushing, just like Putin in Russia is pushing, because there's no credibility, because these people on the regressive left have no idea of the reality of life. And there's more examples of this, where last week we talked about how important Yemen was, and the president called this a success story. This week, folks, we evacuated our embassy in Yemen. Yes, we ran away from ISIS. That's how bad this is. That's the truth. You come here for the truth. We talk about not believing the lies, and you come here for the truth. So now we move into this whole other thing, about the truth. And David Axelrod's new book comes out, and he talks about how President Obama intentionally said he was for natural marriage between a man and a woman in 2008 when he was running for president, so that black religious leaders would support him. That's a lie, folks. That's not a misstatement. That's a lie. Barack Obama did that, okay? And that's unacceptable. That is not acceptable for the President of the United States. But that's who you've got for President of the United States. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous. So now we have this situation, where we've got the Supreme Court just ruled that Alabama must accept gay marriage, even though they have decided to take up the 6th District Court of Appeals, which we've talked about here in Ohio, where the judge ruled that the states have the right to decide what marriage is in their states. And the Supreme Court has agreed to take up this case and hear it in June. But before they take up the case, they give the Alabama, they get rid of a stay and say you can start giving licenses for marriage licenses to gay people in Alabama when they haven't even heard the case. This is where you're getting activism instead of law. Chief Justice Clarence Thomas, who is a Republican and conservative on the court, said, "The court looks the other way as yet another federal district judge casts aside state laws without making any effort to preserve the status quo pending the court's resolution of a constitutional question it left open in the United States versus Windsor," he wrote, referring to the court's 2013 decision striking down part of the Federal Defense of Marriage Act. That decision did not provide an answer as to whether states may define marriage as between only a man and a woman. But see, that decision, the Supreme Court said after our legislators, after the federal government had passed DOMA, all right, a law that said that marriage is between a man and a woman, the Supreme Court said the federal government can't do that it belongs to the states to determine that. But now these activist judges are saying that they're just going to decide that the states don't have the right. Well, do we have laws or don't we? So I've talked to you last week about the Patriots Commitment Survey I did to find out whether you, as Americans, were willing to fight for your liberty, just as Martin Luther King and black Americans stood up against an oppressive government during the civil rights movement and demanded their constitutional rights. Well, the time is coming for us to do so, okay? And I want to talk to you about what's going on in Alabama. A Supreme Court judge there, Ray Moore, the Supreme Court justice in Alabama, has basically ordered judges not to give out these marriage licenses. He's defending states' rights. Most Alabama counties are defying the feds by blocking gay marriage. And if you're watching the video, I've actually got a map up here which shows you which counties are refusing licenses, which ones are just not issuing them. They're saying we're going to wait for the court. And then, of course, in the major cities, they're just falling in line because they're Democrats and they're just giving it out. We need to invoke the 10th Amendment, which says that states have a say in what's going on. And this is where we need to have a rule of law. But when you don't have a rule of law, okay, this is the problem we have. See, because now the media is already beating up the people in Alabama, saying, see those redneck, conservative, Bible-toting people, they're violating the law. The Supreme Court said they have to give these licenses. They won't do it. But here's some moral relevancy for you on the left, all you on the left. What's going on in Colorado, where it is the federal law? You try to buy a marijuana here in Ohio, you're going to go to jail. You try to sell marijuana here, it's a federal law. But what are they doing in Colorado? Well, their state voted that you can have marijuana for sale. And the federal government just decided we're not going to prosecute. Do you see what I'm saying here? Is there law or isn't there law? But when the left stands up and says, well, that's just not a just law that we can't have marijuana, so we're just going to do it anyway, well, they're heroes. But when in Alabama we stand up and we say, listen, we voted, we rule our state. We decide that marriage between a man and a woman, well, you're just wrong. You're just illegal. Folks, it's the people who stood up at Ruby Ridge. It's the people in Ohio, in the Ohio Liberty Movement, who stood up against the IRS and said, I will not comply with your targeting. We will not give you this information about the people in our groups. The time is coming where we need to stand up. And we are the government. They are not. They are activist judges. They do not rule us. I want to bring another thing to your attention that's going on. That's, again, the lies of this administration. All right. And that's about this unemployment rate. The big lie, the 5% unemployment rate, which you and I have talked about. It's a fantasy. That's bull. That doesn't exist. So what happened? Well, the head of Gallup, the CEO of Gallup, the polling group, his name is, I think it's Jim Clifton, CEO of Gallup. He came out this week and basically said unemployment is a lie. They basically said they're looking for a comeback story, and they're literally making it up. They're literally making it up. And he said, if you are a family member or anyone is unemployed and has subsequently given up finding a job, if you are so hopelessly out of work that you stopped looking over the past 4 weeks, the Department of Labor doesn't count you as unemployed. That's right. While you are as unemployed as one can be and tragically may never find work again, you're not counted in the figures that we see relentlessly in the news. Right now, as many as 30 million Americans are either out of work or severely underemployed. Trust me, the vast majority of them aren't throwing parties and toasting the falling unemployment. There's another reason why the official rate is misleading. If you're out of work as an engineer or healthcare worker or construction worker or retailer manager, if you perform a minimum of 1 hour's work in a week and are paid at least $20, maybe someone pays you to mow their lawn, you're not officially counted as underemployed or unemployed as much as they report that. Get that? Are you getting that? Our government is so corrupt. Their lies are so deep that if you are an engineer, if you've spent all this time getting education and you can't find work and you mow someone's lawn and you get paid $20, they consider you unemployed. That's where this 5.6% comes from. It's a bloody lie. It's a bloody lie. Don't believe the lie. We don't believe the lies here on Tea Party Talk with TomZ. That's why you listen to this show. The middle class is being destroyed by this government because they're not counting things correctly. We are not doing well. But that's another lie. President Obama, Joe Biden, they all talk about how they're going to help the middle class, and instead they're destroying us. I got a couple of local events I want to talk to you about. Next week, we're going to talk about the IRS, the internet being taken over by President Obama, and how that's going to raise your taxes and provide less service. But this week, if you put on your calendar a couple things. In Toledo, at the Ramada Inn at 3536 Secor Road in Toledo, John McAvoy and the Toledo Tea Party are conducting a hands-on workshop for groups who want to learn about social messaging. You can call John at 419-787-9585 to learn more about that. And I talked to you last week about Summit County Tea Party is having a 2016 presidential straw poll and fundraiser on Tuesday, March 3rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Red Fox Bar and Grill at 1767 State Road in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. It's $20 per individual, $35 per couple, and you can contact Adam Miller at 330-814-6786. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.